The original Robocop is popular because of its gritty tones, cyberpunk atmosphere, and extremely violent content. But could Robocop 2 do the same? That's what we're gonna find out today. Between 1988 and 1989, Frank Miller, who was popular for his take on Batman, was brought in to pen the Robocop 2 script. Peter Weller was reluctant, but eventually agreed to return once he figured out that Moni Yakin, the man who developed Robocop's movements in the first film, would be back. Russell Towery would also return as Weller's stunt double. And as you can see in this scene, Russell really does take a beating. Robocop 2 is generally not well regarded, probably because its script really sags at times, but I like the movie because it introduces new elements, including a kid drug dealer. Jeez. Another thing that makes the original great is its place in the cyberpunk genre, and I think Robocop 2 obtains that, but also adds some dark comedy to the mix. This adds another level of entertainment to the movie and ends up making it more fun than gritty, which is entirely not a bad thing. I love the original for its tone, but I do like Robocop 2 a lot as well. Now let's talk a little bit about that kid drug dealer that I mentioned earlier, Hob Mills. It's a bold move for a series that is made for adults, and I love it anyway. Die-hard fans of the franchise even think the actor of Hob deserves an Oscar, which I wouldn't go that far, but I do love his performance. Hob creates a drug called Nuke with the Kang Gang. You don't have to laugh, I know it's not funny. In the movie, Robocop is trying to find Kane, the creator of this drug, and he eventually does and ends up injuring him. So yeah. But before he can do that, Robocop has to search for Kane another time, which ends with him getting his mechanical limbs separated. The special effects in this scene are top-notch and some of the best in the entire movie. This part is great because we really get to see Robocop suffer. We got some of that in the first movie, but this time he gets his frickin' limbs torn off. Like, you can't get much better than that. The soundtrack for this movie would be composed by Leonard Rosenman, who had already done music for 2 Planet of the Apes movies and Star Trek for The Voyage Home. Despite it not being nearly as good as Basil Polidori's score for the first film, he still does an okay job making the music for this one. After Robocop gets repaired and goes to search for Kane once again, there's an epic truck chase where Robocop is trying his best to stay on the truck while Kane is driving it to try and get him off the truck. It's an epic combination of practical and special effects and one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. Now I gather that Peter Weller probably just relaxed in a hotel while his stunt double, Russell Lowery, did all the work with these epic stunts in this scene. Nothing against Peter Weller, he does a great job portraying Robocop for the second time in a row, but come on, there's no way he's doing this. Robocop then acquires a motorcycle from an overly dedicated extra and then begins to chase after Kane. Kane then spots Robocop approaching him through his side mirror and the two then engage in an engine revving contest. Robocop obviously wins because of his awesome motorcycle that he stole from that one overly dedicated extra, and then Kane gets so mad because of this that he starts driving at top speed towards Robocop. But then Kane loses again when Robocop attacks him and his truck gets destroyed. Then there's a disgusting scene where Kane's brain is transplanted into the body of a robot, but the end result is awesome as he is now a hulking monstrosity that goes to kill his former allies. The tension in this scene is great because sure, you have a bunch of lives on the line, but specifically Hobbs, who's just a kid who's gotten into all this. This scene definitely has its fair share of bloodshed, but this entire movie definitely has less gore than the original. There is a lot of gross scenes, which ends up making the gore more disgusting than bearable. I don't want to have to explain this entire scene to you guys since you can just go ahead and watch the movie on your own, so I'll just cut to the chase. So a random guy I haven't mentioned yet manages to escape from Robocop 2. Yes, that's what he's called. I don't know. It's also the title of the movie. And Hob is apparently dead? What? Jeez, this movie goes places. Now I'd like to go back to an earlier scene in the movie which also includes Hob, but this time it's set in an arcade. Basically, Robocop is looking for Kane with his partner Lewis when they stumble across Hob with another member of the Kane gang in an arcade. Hobb and the other member are trying to spread Kane's drug, Nuke, across future Detroit. They're also working with a corrupt cop named Officer Duffy. Of course, it isn't long before Robocop finds Officer Duffy and starts asking him for information along with some hilarious one-liners.
Officer Duffy, have a seat.
While all this is happening, Hobb is attacking Robocop's member Lewis with the help of the other member of the Kang Gang. This, of course, leads to Hobb and the other member of the Kang Gang, who I keep referring to the other member of the Kang Gang, to escape. Hobb is definitely less likable in this scene, but his actor, Gabriel Daimon, still does a great job portraying his character. Alright, now it's time for the main event, the final battle, the part that all of you just skipped right to instead of watching the movie like I actually did. Robocop then arrives to save the day. Shortly after, Robocop 2 becomes sentient, and then the two engage in an epic battle with some of the best stop motion I've ever seen in a Robocop movie. Seriously though, the stop motion is comparable to some of the stuff in the original. I generally get goosebumps whenever I see the shot of Robocop 2's shadow walking down the hallway towards Robocop. Then there's an epic elevator sequence with Robocop 2 just sprinting up the wall somehow, and then he breaks through the glass and him and Robocop are hanging off the edge of a building. Then Robocop, I guess, gains 20 or so pounds, which somehow sends the ginormous Robocop 2 falling to the concrete below. After an awesome final battle, including a part where Robocop and Robocop 2 battle in the sewer, Robocop is able to rip Kane's brain out and then smash it against the floor, which sends Robocop 2 finally to his death. Robocop 2 was released on June 22nd, 1990 and received modest box office success but ultimately negative reviews from audiences. Roger Ebert sort of liked it but sort of didn't, or just didn't like it at all. It was kind of hard to tell by the review I read, but that didn't really save the film's fate. Now, I like this movie for its gritty cyberpunk tone like the original, but it also adds some dark comedy to the mix, and I appreciate its originality instead of just being a complete remake of the original like other franchises usually do. I'm glad that Peter Weller was able to return for this movie, although he would not be able to return for Robocop 3 as he would be replaced by Robert John Burke. I thought the score was so-and-so, and compared to the original, I guess it's okay in retrospective. Again, I really like Gabriel Daimon's performance as Hobb, although I don't think he deserves an Oscar for it. I still think he did a great job portraying the kid drug dealer. But of course, those are just my thoughts on the film. If you would like to leave a comment down below on what you think about Robocop 2, feel free. Next time I might review Child's Play or something like that, but until then, I'll see you guys.